Oh well, hello there Fedora versus Arch Linux Battle of the Beast, because why this video? I haven't seen this, I'm subscribed to him, so I'm like, why not take you guys with me? And also, there is a really big push from the community to go from Arch to Fedora, or Arch Linux, not Fedora. Sorry, Fedora is kind of becoming the new fan favorite. It's the new fad, it's the new puppy dog within Linux and stuff like that. A lot of people seem to be, for some reason, they open their eyes to Fedora that has been doing the same shit for fucking a decade or plus now. But for some reason, they just open their eyes up for how great Fedora is, and I find it kind of funny that now that the novelty of Arch Linux is kind of winding down, and you see a lot of people going over to Fedora, and then when that novelty is wearing down, they're jumping ship again. That said, let's see what this is, if it's a benchmark. He's talking about it's not a benchmark. So let's see if Fedora is a rolling release again, because everyone calls Fedora a rolling release, and it makes my nuts crawl up into my fucking throat. So let's get on with it. And also let's get this up to 1080p, because we want really to see his. He looked like he just got a happy ending there. Anyway.
Hello everybody, this is Tekka. In this video, what we are going to be doing is taking a look at Fedora and Arch Linux, specifically some of the main differences between them, as Fedora and some Arch-based Linux systems seem to be where I end up when it comes to trying to pick out a Linux distribution. So both Fedora and Arch Linux are generally considered cutting-edge distributions, so all the packages are up to date in comparison to something like Debian.
Hold your horses. Yes and no. Fedora do freeze down some packages. They don't update as fast as Arch Linux. At the recording of this video, that's you can see it down there in my Windows machine. Fedora still freezes some packages. I'm sorry you have to deal with my auto exposure, because we have cloudy, gloomy weather outside, so it'll be dark and sunny and stuff like that. So and again, I don't have fucking proper lighting. Anyway, Fedora seems to be a little bit behind Arch Linux. So it's not that bleeding edge, and it like I said, of recording of this date down here, 5.18 is out, and I don't think Fedora have 5.18 yet. The main differences between Arch and Fedora is that if you want to talk bleeding edge software and stuff, and again, I'm really sorry for all of this fucking jerkiness with my auto exposure, but hey, I live in a country where the weather, it changes its mind every fucking 5 seconds if I do this here. But anyway, Arch Linux is basically, you get the latest packages as fast as possible from the official developers. Fedora's kind of thing is, we are testing new technologies. They're a little bit more focused on adopting new technologies, Wayland, things in the kernel, and that nature. So that's kind of the difference. So if you want the new technologies faster with Linux, you go Fedora. If you want just, upgraded versions of the packages there already is as fast as possible, you go with Arch. So they are not really the same. Also, Arch Linux is a rolling release. Fedora is call it a semi-rolling release, or call it a static release. I have plenty of videos debugging Fedora being a rolling release and talking about what the difference between rolling releases and static releases is. The release cycle is different, and I kind of feel, I'm a little bit afraid that my good friend here is going to mess that up also.
However, the way in which they achieve this is different. So on both, you'll be getting the latest versions of your preferred desktop environment, the latest kernels, and the latest versions of your favorite applications and more. So with that, let's talk about their update structures. Arch is a rolling release Linux distribution, which means that you install it once and then you keep updating individual packages on your system. There's no Arch Linux version 2 that you need to install 6 months later. So you just install Arch and update your system as need be. Fedora, on the other hand, is a fixed release distribution.
Fuck yes! 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 Like, what is, like, he has, congratulations on 100,000 subscribers, by the way. I have watched more than I like to admit videos about Fedora, because I like following the trends within Linux and laugh at them a little bit. He's the first one. This dude is the first one that have seen the light, that understand how repositories work. He knows more about Linux than Chris Titus Tech. He knows more about Linux than the Linux Experiment. He knows more about Linux than DistroTube, and I could go on and on and on and on and on. And he's a Linux fanboy. alone for this reason, you should all now go and do this little thing here. Subscribe and ring the bell. I am not signed in here, so I can't do that.
Fedora currently has a release cycle of around 6 months, and this means every 6 months you'll need to upgrade to the latest version of Fedora. Now, while
I will say this, you upgrade to it, but in reality you just jump repository and then you get the latest software from that repository. That if you're going to be nerdy about it, he's right, you upgrade your versions, but in reality what we're doing in the backend is you are, right now you're here, and then you're bloop, now you're over here on that repository for 6 to 8 months or how long it's officially supported. I think it's like current release, I think it's like 3 versions down they're supporting it, or 4, I can't remember it.
Arch is somewhat more convenient because you don't need to do full system-wide updates in a certain period of time. It can cause issues when Arch decides to make a system-breaking change, in which an update will require manual intervention to fix.
Sorry, I paused before. I was pre-pausing. Pre-ejaculation. And that's kind of one of the good things you get with static releases that a lot of people seem to disregard, is that when there are new technologies coming, they tend to wait till, the next release. So therefore, they can test it so the upgrade procedure should, in theory, go smoother. You don't have to babysit your system that much. Like, this is my experience, and when you talk with people that want static releases, you basically don't have to babysit your system. Rolling releases, at some point, you have to babysit it. I don't care if you're running Fedora, or not Fedora, sorry, I messed that up now. OpenSUSE, Tumbleweed, Arch, Manjaro, blah blah. At some point, something will happen that require you to do something. It's a matter of time.
And the system will be less stable overall compared to Fedora. Now, this may sound bad, but I've only really had one occasion where I had boot issues after an update, and I think it had something to do with the NVIDIA drivers on Manjaro.
So he fucks up here. Manjaro is not Arch. I have plenty of videos where I talk about this subject. Manjaro is not Arch.
Fedora's frequent update cycle is what allows it to be cutting edge while still being stable enough for even a Linux novice to use comfortably. For example, a potentially system-breaking change would just wait until the next major version of Fedora is ready, so that way any bugs can be worked out and fixed. We even saw this in the last 36 update, as its release date was pushed forward a few times as bugs were eliminated. Now let's talk about the backing for these distributions, just like how OnlyOffice backed and sponsored this video. OnlyOffice is a fantastic all-in-one office suite fully compatible with Microsoft Office. With that, Arch and Fedora are both community projects. However, Fedora is funded by Red Hat and therefore shares some infrastructure and ties. This can be noticeable in some places. For example, doing a bug report takes you to the Red Hat Bugzilla page, which requires its own account. In return, Red Hat bases itself off of Fedora, which essentially makes Red Hat the LTS version of Fedora.
Again, he gets something right that 99% of the knowledgeable YouTubers don't get right. Red Hat is not, or Fedora is not based on Red Hat, it's the other way around. So yeah, so far he only got one thing wrong, and again, it's a big thing, in my opinion. But he's kind of on point here, which is really crazy to think about, because he don't sell himself as being a Linux know-it-all, like the DistroTubes, the Linux Experiments, the Chris Titus Texts. He's just an average hobbyist, an average fanboy of Linux, and he knows more about Linux already, it looks like, than all of them combined do. That's why I'm sub to him, and you should be also. This is kind of beginning to sound like an advertisement for his channel, but yeah.
Arch, on the other hand, is a fully independent community project with no corporate ties. So from their package management is independent community. In return, Red Hat bases itself off of Fedora, which essentially makes Red Hat the LTS version of Fedora. Arch, on the other hand, is a fully independent community project with no corporate ties.
Let's see if that's right, because I do think they have sponsors, but I could be wrong. Yeah, they do. They do have sponsors. So they do have corporate ties. You can't see it from my fat face. Click and Pride, donate now. That's probably their donation link. They have Hetzner. Private internet access, always use protection. Yeah, boys and girls. Icon S8 and Shell. So they sponsors, partners in crime, call it what you will, but they do have sponsored corporate ties. How this evolved is: are they giving them money? Are they hosting their repositories? What are they doing for them? I don't know. We could look into this, but there are a corporate tie. They are doing something from Arch, so it's not 100% community supported or developed or something like that, because they are helping out Arch Linux in some way or another.
So from there, package management is where, in my opinion, Arch starts to pull off some wins. Fedora and Arch currently use different package managers, with Arch using Pacman and Fedora using DNF. Pacman is known for being somewhat confusing to new Arch users. For example, instead of running pacman install Firefox, you would do pacman-syu Firefox.
And this is a problem I have talked about that a lot of nerds have. They like to be smart. And Arch Linux seems to be coming from a nerdy standpoint. You know, it's nerds making a system for nerds. They love to overcomplicate everything. It's not like, okay, you take a hammer and you hammer in a nail. That if an engineer or nerd have to do that, they have plans, diagrams, and they call a hammer something fucking different because they want to look smart, and they are calculating the force and the angle of your arm and all of that shit instead of just fucking taking the nail and hammer it in.
With the S installing it, Y updating the repositories, and U updating the installed packages.
There you go.
DNF is a little bit easier to use. For example, you simply just run DNF install Firefox, and it even automatically updates your repositories, for which it'll save you some work. So like with Ubuntu, you would have to run sudo apt update and then update your packages with upgrade. On Fedora, that's not the case. And this also makes sure that your dependencies are up to date, which prevents weird dependency issues that you can get on Arch if you do not keep up to date or keep your system up to date. However, DNF is known to be one of the slowest package managers, which is a huge con not only for DNF, but for Fedora as a whole.
I'm talking from experience here. I think that Zipper or Cyber from SUSE is slower. And what I have noticed with Arch Linux, or not Arch, with Fedora, is that it's not so much the downloading and installing that's slow, it's the syncing with the repository that's slow. And I do suspect it's because they have cap on the syncing speed and access to the repositories. You know, they limit access, they limit sync speed and stuff like that. Because when you get over this sync stuff here, that they're doing right here, and you get into actually installing it, in my experience, it's actually quite fast. It's as fast as apt and stuff like that. The thing where I wait the longest is always the sync, where they're syncing with repositories and stuff like that. But I would love to hear what you guys' experience is with it.
And I did talk about this a lot more in my Fedora specific review, so make sure you go check out that video. Speaking of packages, let's talk about these distribution repositories.
Okay, so here, it limits clean required on remove. Okay, so it's actually setting up dconf here. Let's see, skip if unavailable true. Fast mirrors, that could be one that you need to take off. Parallel downloads 10. Defaults type equal true. Keep cache true. This is actually something I probably should be doing, but again, I don't really use Fedora that much. I have it in a VM for videos and that's it. So for me, this is not that big of a problem, but if you are running Fedora, take a screenshot of this and then probably just copy paste it into or type it into your DNF config, because it seems to be working great.
Repositories. Fedora has two, one being the main one and two being for updates. Arch is a bit more complicated with several different repos, including core, extra community, multi-lib, staging, and testing repos.
What did I just say about engineers?
According to pkgs.org, Fedora's main repo alone has almost 68,000 packages, which actually beats out Ubuntu by around 2,000 packages, making Fedora's repo one of the biggest of any distro. The Fedora repo, however, only ships with free and open source packages, and they even avoid open source things that could be considered a legal risk for Fedora, such as emulators. So you most likely will need to install some other repo like RPM Fusion to get around this limitation. Now for Arch, their repos are somewhat small, just under 13,000 packages in its non-staging and testing repos. This is very small, even compared to something like Void Linux, which has a bigger repository with just over 18,000 packages, including their non-free repos. To get around this, Arch has the AUR, or one of my my favorite things, the Arch user repository. It is a giant repo of unofficial user-generated package, and these can vary in quality, but generally they're...
I'm glad he said that, because anecdote time again. When I talk to Linux users that run Arch, most of the problems they have is with the AUR. It's badly maintained programs from the AUR. It's the AUR fucking up the install. If I don't fiddle around with the AUR, Arch Linux seems to be really, really stable.
There is an AUR package for almost everything that you can think of. For example, the AMD Pro drivers that are made specifically for Ubuntu will actually give you better success installing them on Arch through the AUR with less steps and limited configuration needed. Now, Fedora does have something similar to the AUR called Copper, which allows anybody to easily make their own RPM.
Is it called Copper or COPR? Because I've heard it both.
And maintain them. Not just for Fedora, but several other distros, including Red Hat Linux and even OpenSUSE. The main issue, though, this is very similar to the PPA system in Ubuntu, which means you may find yourself having several extra repos installed with Copper. Now, lastly, let's talk about the installation. Fedora uses the Anaconda installer, which has gotten criticism for being somewhat confusing. The main install process is straightforward enough, but the general layout is just not common compared to other installation processes.
So I will say this, and I'm going to defend the Anaconda installer a little bit, because we have to understand who is the target group here. It's called Fedora Workstation. That's to say it all. This is how they do it in the industry. This is how installers was in the 80s, not 80s, the 90s, early 2000s. The IT industry, like the professional IT industry, is really slow at adopting new things. Like massively slow. Because if it works, they keep it. Because then they can certify you up to the fucking ass and hole and to the moon and back. And they really don't like changes that much, because changes could break things, give you downtime, and we need to learn this new thing, and we need to, put our IT people into school or throw their lazy ass onto a course so they can learn this new technology. They like things being what it is. That's basically what I'm saying. They are not the ones to run out there and use new technology unless they see a massive benefit, meaning that they can save a shit ton of money or earn a shit ton of money. So that's why the Anaconda installer is where it is. It's looked like it's built up about paradigms that's been standard within the IT industry for decades. That's why they're doing it. Should it be updated? Yeah. But again, Fedora Workstation. Fedora is really not built to be a desktop operating system. We're just using it as it. It's actually built to be a workstation. It's not built to be a gaming machine. We just happen to use it and it happen to be great at it. It's not built to be a home cinema system, which it can be really easy and it's great at it. It's built for workstations. We have to remember this when we are looking at a distribution. What is the target audience? So yeah, just a little side note there.
Processes or applications such as Calamaris. Now, with that, Arch, on the other hand, makes Fedora look like you are installing Chrome. Until recently, they didn't even have an installer, and you would just have to go to the Arch wiki and install it step by step for yourself. This changed on April Fools of 2021 with the introduction of Arch Install. This is a TUI script to help you install and set up Arch, and it can still be a bit confusing, which there are several other Arch scripts, such as ArchFi available, which again, I have a video on that too if you want to see my ArchFi guide. But in addition to that, there are a whole bunch of Linux distributions that will make installing Arch easier, such as the Arch GUI, EndeavourOS, and because of this, if you're a beginner,
Oh, he didn't mention Easy Arch, and now Esting is crying in the background. They didn't remember me! His ego just took a massive hit, man.
I generally recommend installing something easier that provides the benefit of Arch like EndeavourOS or even Manjaro. So,
again, Manjaro's not Arch.
That is my comparison of Fedora and Arch Linux. For you in your specific use case, you might have a preference, one preference or...
So, okay, I don't want to go into his thoughts. You can watch the video for that. I just want to see what he was saying about it. This is probably the only video I've seen lately from a big Linux YouTuber that I can say, yeah, this is actually agreeable. he actually have done a little bit of research or know what he's talking about compared to a lot of other people, which actually make, again, like, I'm subscribed to this dude. I watch this, like, I watch content when I have time for it, and sometimes I miss other people's because it depends on what content they're making. I do like watching his content. He's a really well-spoken, calm guy. He's not like me all over the fucking place. The only thing that he gets wrong, Mantiao is not art. And if that's the only thing that I can sit here and be a critical motherfucker about a video about, it's actually a good video. It's not like with DistroTube and QuizTiles Tech, I am bashing them a little bit here, where I have to have fucking screenshots up on the screen to basically rectify the misinformation that they're giving out or the misunderstandings that they have about Linux. Here, I just have to say Arch Linux is not, Mantiao is not Arch Linux, and I will probably also have had that screenshot up there, but that's it. Look at how many screenshots I've had up here compared to a DistroTube video, an Arch, or QuizTiles Tech video, or the Linux Experiment video, or any other videos I've done, like eBoss Central and stuff like that, is to kind of tell you something. That, also, this is not that long. I'm 27 minutes into it. It's actually a short video. Because I can't really fault anything here other than Mantiao is not Arch. Again, like he said here before I stopped him, it's personal preference. I like that also, because you see, every other fucking person on the internet, you have to use this distribution because I like it. He's saying it's personal preference. I haven't watched his thoughts here, and he will probably put in his recommendation why he's using it, but from what I know, and from the videos that I've seen of him, he's a little bit over in the same camp as I am and a lot of other people are, is that what works for me may not work for you. So therefore, I cannot tell you what to do. I can only tell you what I like to do. So yeah, definitely go subscribe to this dude here. See you all later. Bye-bye.